We know that Jace, Malphite have been incredibly high priority bans throughout the other regions across the world.
There we are.
And there's the Jace going to be taken off the board. The Scion coming through from Fnatic, naturally targeted towards Baus.
You can hear the crowd be like, oh, come on, just give it to him once, guys. Just let's see what you can do on the Scion. Azir taken away as well from Vladi, a new player for Fnatic coming across from Carmine Corp last year. And we'll see where Fnatic go with their final buy. As you say, like Malphite, Yunara is really strong at the moment. We're seeing Ryze in priority across the world as well with the actualizer build that has been making the rounds. Malphite, the final ban here from Fnatic. See where Los Ratones go for their last ban as well.
Yunara, one of the champions that has been left open. I wonder if Upset's going to quickly grab that for himself. Whether Varus is something that the European teams still hold a lot of value over, given that it feels objectives is still kind of the name of the game right now. Having that additional range is incredibly valuable. But Yunara seems to be the premier AD carry as of the current meta. A couple hovers coming through from Fnatic as they take their time to think about what they want to lock in, but I expect Upset going to be piloting one of the best AD carries on the current patch.
Yeah, Yunara just does so much stuff, especially since you can get the Fiend Hunter bolts on her second. Just gives you so much damage in team fights. And you have okay lane control as well. With that activated Q, you get that mini Runans, you can clear the waves relatively effectively. Los Ratones, though, going to look into that Yunara. Could go for like something like jungle AD here if you want. You could even pick your support early.
I wonder if something like the Wukong for Velja, something that he's shown a lot of comfort on throughout 2025. Of course, the Corki, something that we've been seeing a lot as well. The amount of lane power that it provides, and on the current patch, it just spikes incredibly well. I think it's a nice answer into the Yunara that should give LR's bot lane a comfortable 2 versus 2 matchup, depending on what we see come through for the support. For Velja to go towards the Jarvan, they want that easy engage tool, they want that backline access. Now remember that throughout the LEC, those melee engaged supports have kind of been the name of the game, but Rekkles, very well known for things like his Janna, his range supports, and we know for carrier fans, range supports are all the craze over in the LCK with how successful they've been.
Yeah, bringing out his Bard as well, that Carrier is just so good at those sorts of picks. Rekkles had a little bit of time with Carrier at
That's true.
Worlds, not last year, but the year before. Had some time to train under him. Vi and Taliyah locked in for Fnatic, a tried and true combination.
Especially for Fnatic as an organization since Razork has been on there. As much as Vi as a champion has been criticized for his performance in the LEC, it's one of Razork's go-to best champions. So he's going to be starting off the split strong with the champion he's very comfortable on as Nemesis responds with the Ryze, a long-term pick for him back in his Fnatic days.
I really think roaming mids are so important with the speed they can roam at the moment. Because you can, if you can get down to bot lane, reset, get the home guards back into your lane quickly, you're not actually going to be losing too much because of those enhanced home guards that you get running up towards your minion wave.
If you're not getting something off the roams, it can be punishing, but as you rightly said, it is not as punishing in the sense that the home guards do help and the TPs. Assuming they choose to run TPs, which I expect to see come through from these two mid laners. In any case, the Jack's going to be taken away from the top side. To Nami actually going to be removed. So we talked about those range support options.
Nami Corki is just devastating. If they get in with a Valkyrie Gatling gun, and then you have the Tidecaller's Blessing behind it, it's so much damage in the early game. Rumble taken away by Los Ratones. They want to try and keep Empyros into a little bit smaller of a bubble. Bard taken away by Fnatic, because those range supports you were talking about for Rekkles. Here, likely to see the support pick, but it could be Baus on his Kled. Okay, with the Jax banned away, the Scion banned away.
We were just
seems to be what he wants.
talking with Finn prior to coming, and he kept saying Kled, Kled, Kled.
Finn, if you're here, just come up to the caster desk, man. We'll have you on for 10 minutes. You can talk about Kled top. You can talk about what he's going to do into Baus. Alistar, the current hover for Fnatic, but it looks like they're going to pick a top lane answer for Empyros. It is the Ambessa. And alongside that, Alistar. Alistar's actually really good with some of the new support items. The Protoplasm Harness suits him incredibly well.
Absolutely. I do think it's a little bit risky to blind pick an Alistar, given that we know Rekkles does prefer those range supports. The question is, what champion would he look to pair up? Maybe a Karma as a possibility. Maybe he just goes for something like a Braum if they want that disengage opportunity. If they want a little bit more follow-up possibility of a Leona, a Nautilus as well.
If this was solo queue, I'd be looking at Poppy, and I'd be looking at her very intently right now. Into Ambessa, into Alistar, into Vi, does a huge amount of work Braum can serve a similar function. You've got the Unbreakable for when the Taliyah is trying to get in. If the Alistar ever jumps in, you've got Concussive Blows on him, but doesn't quite have the same show-stopping potential that Poppy would.
But the thing about Braum is that passive against all these champions that are threatening your AD carry, trying to dive onto that backline, going to be very effective. But look at this composition from Fnatic. Even though the players have changed, the style definitely has not. Ambessa plus the Vi, I mean, you throw a Kai'Sa in there and it's the same Fnatic that we saw last year. Changing it up for a Yunara. Fnatic's composition is very much about skirmishing, about that backline access, about looking for that dive. LR have a bit more side lane options. Nemesis, keep an eye on his Ryze and how he utilizes it to play through those side lanes, make those quick collapses, create those numbers of advantages, alongside the Kled, who can also collapse quickly from those side lanes thanks to his ultimate. So I think LR have a few 1-3-1 options, but they've got to be very cautious of Fnatic's positioning on the map, because Razork as a player is the type to punish those mispositioning if you overextend on a side lane.
Oh, that Vi is so good at punishing them as well. I had a quick look at some of the numbers. Baus on his Kled in the ERLs last year, 4-2 across the course of his career. Upset on Yunara, undefeated. 3-0 on it last year. Played it against SK, BDS, and KC in the summer playoffs. We look like we are ready to get on to Summoner's Rift for the first game of LEC Versus. The first time we see Los Ratones on this grand stage, and a new look Fnatic trying to take them down. Minions spawning so much quicker, obviously, means that level 1s aren't quite as impactful as they used to be. Pretty easy for players just to set up these lines of scrimmage. You're not really looking for any hard invades. If you do go for one, you have to go all in on it. And if it fails, obviously, that's a little coin flippy, Vedi.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a viewer that doesn't really play the game as much anymore, but you do still love to watch the pro scene, there are a couple of pretty significant changes that have come to the game, role quests being one of them. You can see at the top of your screen those role quests kind of slowly ticking up for each players, but now the players and the laners are very much locked into their lanes a little bit more than what we saw in the past.
Yeah, you get more experience towards completing your quest if you are in your lane. You can leave and still get some points towards it, but it's much more effective for you to be in lane. We'll talk about them kind of as they become important in these games, because otherwise it would be a bit of a word vomit. Bear trap on a rope from Baus onto Empyros, who can just dodge away.
Velja has done his red, immediately looked to try and invade.
He forces Razork back.
I think he was able to steal it. Yeah, he was able to steal away that Gromp.
Nice little steal.
I mean, he kind of had to make something worthwhile. He committed a lot of time, but now he's turning his attention into mid lane.
Vladi pushed up here. Nemesis is going to try and chase. Good dodge from Vladi. Has the Ghost. He's going to start running away. Rune Prism from Nemesis not available. Has the Spell Flux and the Overload only being level 2.
So we did mention that mid laners don't need to run TP in the same way that they used to before. You were talking a little bit about it earlier. Those home cards, they feel so good as a mid laner. I know so many people hate them, but for mid lane, it's fantastic. You have a little bit more luxury in when you actually choose to base. And for a lot of mid laners, it means that they can choose to be a little bit more defensive. In solo queue, people are usually a little bit more aggressive with their summoner spell choices. But Velja, with his pathing, he's done red into blue, level 3 after stealing away the Gromp, and he wants to keep this aggression going. Bear in mind, he doesn't have prio in mid, he doesn't really have prio in bot, but he doesn't care. He's looking to steal away what he can, and he's going to get these Raptors.
That's 2 camps of the first 6 in the game. Lospa going in, looking for that knockup on Crownie. He can just Valkyrie away. Upset trying to chase in. There's the Unbreakable. Concussive blows down onto Lospa, and you can see the damage with the Phosphorus bomb. Rekkles stands beside his teammate. Lospa down to half HP. Velja coming around here. Razork's had to put a ward in the bush. Neither of them have the smite. Razork looking for it, will manage to secure his own red buff.
Nice secure there from Razork. The bot lane getting very aggressive, and you saw the value of Braum into the Alistar in that bot lane 2v2. Sure, the engage from Alistar is very good, but what do you do when you try to retreat? The Braum passive doing a lot of work to help Crownie and Rekkles come out ahead in that small skirmish. Meanwhile, Baus getting a small push in the top side of the map, likely looking to reset soon, as he's got to be careful of the positioning of Razork, who is now securing that top scuttle crab. Velja now finally getting back to those camps that he's ignored, as he's put so much pressure onto Razork in the early game.
One thing this does do for Los Ratones, though, is keep their jungler off the map for the next little while. Assuming he wants to clear all of his camps, assuming he wants to get the next set of camps coming up sooner, Razork can path through mid, go down to the bot scuttle. Maybe Velja will try and contest, and it looks like he's going to. TP from Empyros up towards the top lane, but Velja here on the losing side of that trade. Nemesis trying to move across, is seismically shoved back into the lane, and Velja here being forced away. Lospa was moving up from bot side as well. Velja at half HP will be very hard for him to actually contest this anymore. Yep. Might just look down towards the bottom lane.
He just doesn't have the prio. He doesn't have the teammates to help him right now because Vladi's doing a good job of keeping that push in the middle lane. And the bot side of the map, even though Lospa did lose that earlier trade, they've been able to hold on the bounce back of the push to make sure that Crownie and Rekkles cannot get involved. So as much as Velja would like to get that Scuttle Crab, he will be denied.
Now he's going to go around and clear out all of his camps that he left up earlier, and you can see Razork doing the same, pathing out towards that Gromp. Small change that you can do as the jungler, just run through the lane all the way up towards your Gromp. You might as well, you get the extra home guards, a little bit of extra movement speed for you. So we see both the mid laners just trading blows. Across the early game, relatively even between these two teams. Couple of good invades from Velja, but isn't going to get him too substantial a lead because of the timing of the camps coming back up for Razork. He can actually just do a whole nother full clear here and be about level 5, 5.5 anyway.
Turn our attention towards that first dragon of the game. We know that dragon stacking really kind of is, it feels like the go-to play right now.
Yeah.
Especially, they are a little bit more durable, so you've got to be very aware as Empyros.
Baus has to flash away from that. He was looking for the remount. You see that little yellow bar underneath the Kled? When that fills up, Skull comes back. It comes back a little bit quicker than he used to, which means you can play around with that extra health bar. But Baus having to burn his flash there to escape Empyros' clutches.
Flash burn means that Razork could turn his attention towards that top side of the rift. Big stacking wave on the bot side of the map means that Upset has to be cautious of a potential dive himself. Pings are coming down onto that bot river to potentially clear out some vision, as it looks like Razork is going to go for an early base. So yeah, a very quiet, timid first game for both these teams. I guess you could put it a little bit down to nerves. I like the way that, as you mentioned earlier, Velja, by going for those invades, kind of very much speaks to his style, wanting to be active on the map, wanting to look for those skirmishes, wanting to play without any fear. Right now, there's not really much to play for. There's only an easy lane for either side to gank. Once those level 6s come through, Vladi and Nemesis need to be the players that you keep your eye on because those ultimates, the ability to collapse is very quick from that mid lane.
Control ward here will spot Razork and Vladi as they try and get into Velja's jungle, but they won't be able to manage it. Baus comes across, puts down a ward of his own, and it really feels like LR have a game plan. It is track Razork, keep Razork behind, don't allow Razork the ability to have early game impact, and it makes sense. Fnatic's catalyst so often through the early game across the years has been Razork, and if you can keep him on a little bit of a leash, it becomes a lot harder for Fnatic to actually have proactive plays.
And let's not forget that LR, they were a team that didn't have the best early games in the ERLs. They were a team that often fell behind, and they found ways to come back into games through smart macro, through clever team fighting. And so the fact that they find themselves in a pretty good spot 7 minutes into the game, keeping Razork in control is definitely a very solid game plan for your first game of this play.
Yeah, and Baus yet to die as well, which is kind of a departure from what he usually does in solo queue. We did run some of the numbers. We had a look at it, and in solo queue, Baus on average dies 9 times a game this year. Whereas when he was in the ERLs, 5.2, solid, you can see, but it comes at a big cost to his damage.
That it does.
Like Baus has many good deaths, and a lot of the time it's getting that extra damage down here. Obviously, maybe doesn't want to go for those all in place.
But I mean, that's kind of one of the fun stories about LR, right? The fact that Baus has been able to make this evolution from solo queue tyrant to ERL champion to now competing on the LEC stage and showing what he can do against some of the best top laners that Europe has to offer. And so far, he is holding his own. He did, of course, lose his flash. Velja using the power that he has in bot lane to secure the first objective of the game.
Really nice. You talked about how important that first dragon was, and you could see they got the vision in the Tribush, they got the vision near the Razor Beaks. Fnatic had to step back a little bit to make sure they weren't overstepping, and with Crownie and Rekkles pushing through bot, it became very easy for Velja to get that Hex Drake. Drake's a little bit harder to take this year than they were in years previously, especially if you get a lot of them, because the Dragon's Vengeance, the debuff that they get that reduces the damage they take from enemies, increased across the patch changes. So
Grub's now available. Empyros will be the first to drop a ward on that side of the rift. Keeping an eye on where the junglers are. Velja continuing his jungle clear. Going to be hovering around the top side of the map. Baus Cautious of his HP, realizing that some of these trades now become a little bit harder against the Ambessa. Her ability to take those short trades and just chunk out your HP is a very scary thing to go up against. I wonder if we will see the Endless Hunger come through from Empyros, one of the newest items added to the newest patch. Now what is Razork fishing for here? Phaelites, your favorite addition on the new patch, Medic. Provides a lot more vision.
It does, yes. So if you put a ward in a Phaelite spot, you get vision for 45 seconds over the area highlighted.
Yummy. That's some yummy vision.
It's a lot of vision and it lasts for a long time.
That it does. Look at the little sparkles. You can just see so much.
If you walk through enemy vision on a Phaelite, you will get 2 eyes above your head, so you know you are on vision. I will say perhaps could be slightly more obvious. You can see that sort of red glow in the river. That implies that Los Ratones have a bit of vision in here. And they will be forced out. That ward will be cleared away.
Upset actually popped his ult for that small skirmish on the bot side. Looks like it's not really going to result in a huge amount as both AD carries just walk away, go back to farming. Razork, I will say I was expecting a little bit more aggression from him when you have this Ambessa plus the Taliyah.
I think you just have to give credit to Los Ratones there, though.
I mean, yeah, Nemesis is a very aware player of what is going on and the game plan that Fnatic has. Razork, you can see him kind of hovering around mid every now and then, but there's not really been good opportunities for him to find that early play. You have to imagine nerves do play a part in the very first game of the season as well. Rekkles maybe overstepped his bounds.
Upset and Lospa really want to push this wave out, and Rekkles is going forward with Glacial Fissure. Velja on his way across. Lospa, flag and drag for the knock-up, and with a flash away, the cow will survive for now. Meanwhile, on the top side, Baus is locked up with a Season's Assist, and there's the damage coming in from the Vi. Empyros going in with that public execution, but the remount is the charge away as Baus survives and lives to fight another day. Velja still looking for a little bit more bot. Upset does have his flash and his cleanse. Lospa going to get the knock-up, looking for the pulverize back. The Cataclysm still not under tower range. Velja, though, stunned up with a trample. Lospa still surviving around more pin. Oh, the unbreakable on a time. Upset caught out by Nemesis. Now one more order will be enough for the concussive blows. Stun, but they can't quite find it.
Wow, action suddenly breaks out across the rift as Velja forces a dive on the bot side of the map because he knows that Razork is top. Baus is able to escape the 2 versus 1 situation. The same cannot be said for Lospa, but the good news for Fnatic is that Upset walks away with a kill. Vladi securing 2 plates in the mid lane as well will ultimately equalize the gold across the rift. Action finally making its way here into the LEC.
Yeah, small gold lead for Velja there in the jungle. Now has this Sundered Sky completed, which, although it was slightly nerfed, is still an incredibly powerful item on this patch. We'll have another look down towards the bottom side. You can kind of see what Lospa's thinking here.
Well, the whole logic is, I think I can fish as Velja because I've just spotted the Vi top side. I wouldn't usually go for this play, but Lospa plays it about as well as he could in this situation, right? He knows that he's likely going to die. Rekkles didn't quite get in range in time to protect from that last auto from Upset, and it means it ends up being a 1-for-1.
Yeah, for Lospa, he's hoping, oh, I'll pulverize him, then headbutt him back underneath my tower. But a good flash from Velja keeps him alive for a little bit longer. Next Drake up in about a minute's time. It is a Chem Drake, which means we won't have that soul, and we're starting to see some of those quests completed. The top lane quest for Empyros has been finished. That means now he can go to level 20, and his recall his teleport becomes empowered, allowing him a massive percentage max HP shield when he completes it.
That's a little low here.
Public execution. Baus looking for the remount, can't find it. Skull nowhere to be found.
Baus has been playing at the very edge of life and death in this laning phase, and Empyros is finally able to push him over that edge, securing the 2nd kill for Fnatic. Now we see Razork hovering around the bot side, that control ward, going to deny vision, give him an angle into that bot side. Undetected. Oh, I stand corrected. He's now
detected.
Yeah, he is fully detected.
Lospa's still going in here. They're looking for the damage on Rekkles, but the Unbreakable so strong. Lospa having to use an ult. His Unbreakable will... That's not great for the Fnatic support with a Dragon coming up soon. He does have teleport from the Unsealed Spellbook, so maybe he can get back here soon, but Rekkles trying to stop him from getting that recall off.
Velja now also going to complete his quest along with Rekkles. So quest being completed across the rift. For jungle, they get that movement speed as they traverse through the jungle. Get a little bit more when they're not in combat. I apologize. The mid lane one is the one that I want to keep the eyes on the most because you get those empowered boots, you get that empowered recall every 5 minutes, and just getting those two boots as quickly as you can is so valuable because once you complete the quest, they immediately go to tier 3, and it's such a nice fight.
You can see how close getting a quest is for most of these players. Like, there's a minute between them at most. Obviously, you want to be in your lane. You want to be getting that quest stacking up. And if you do leave, much less likely to have it stacked at an appropriate time. But assuming you're in lane, assuming you're not getting absolutely stopped, you'll complete it around the same time as your opponent. Lospa a little bit short on completing his right now, but he has got my favorite item in the game, Vedi. It's the Bandle Pipes picked up on that Alistar.
Yeah, it's a nice item, specifically because it's well-rounded, gives you HP, armor, and magic resist along with haste, which is just great stats for an Alistar in general. But then the slowing or the immobilizing in enemy champions gives that fanfare buff, gives you the additional movement speed, and it gives attack speed to your allies as well. And that attack speed, especially in a champion like Yunara, incredibly valuable.
It's just so good. I've seen it on a few Sejuani tops as well, because the extra movement speed and the attack speed to yourself allows you to get that permafrost passive off a little bit quicker. As soon as the quests are completed, we go to AD carries in the mid lane, or bot laners in the mid lane technically, and mid's going down towards that bottom lane. Neither of them running that TP does mean it will be slightly harder for them to influence plays, but we do have those global ults.
And that's one of the big things. You mentioned in draft how roaming mid laners are so valuable, and this is why. Because if you choose not to run the TP and you send your mid laner down bot, well, Rift Herald spawns in 5 seconds. But now you've got a Ryze and a Taliyah with no TP stuck on the bot side of the map. But because they have those ultis that can help get them into the middle lane as quickly as possible, then it means that it's not as bad when you don't have the TP.
Also have the empowered recall, so you can empowered recall
as well,
and then home guards out, then use your ultimate. So you're there very, very fast if you do need to be, and if your team desires you in the location. So overall, a pretty timid early game from both these teams. Both been very willing to scale up, and who can blame them? Like, both teams scale really well into this game.
Razork
looking for Rekkles. Goes in. There's the Weaver's Wall as well from Vladi to try and cut it off, and break out from Rekkles. Good Glacial Fissure will stop the advance of Fnatic. But they get the Scuttle Crab.
That they do.
And as a jungler, you're very happy
that
with that sort of moment. I was going to say I'm very happy and then realize I'm not a jungler. I can't speak for them.
No, I mean, it's definitely a massive W, especially given how slow the game is right now. You've got to take every W you can get. Massive W.
Not just a minor one. Ooh, Lospa going in. Look at the knock. Rune Prison comes out onto him. Razork going back onto Nemesis, forces him away. TP is coming out from Fnatic. They look for the seismic shot back onto Nemesis, and he's been abandoned by his team. He flashes the wall, but the public execution finds him. Empyros gets one. Rekkles needs to stand beside his teammates, but upsets on the chase. Shouldn't be able to get too much more out of this. Razork goes in for another punch, and that's all it will be.
A swift collapse from Fnatic as they find themselves another pick should result in a Rift Herald secured. Baus, meanwhile, left isolated on the top side of the map, can secure a couple plates for him, but it was still a worthwhile TP investment from Empyros as he's able to find that play on the bot side of the map. Baus now has to be very careful that he doesn't overstay his welcome.
He's still got the charge to get out if so required. Might even use it to try and get towards the Herald.
Testing this, they're a man down.
Baus the first to move from top. Emperor's trying to catch that wave. Fnatic stepping back in. Razork gets the hit on the eye, but looks like Fnatic may have just given this one up. Razork looking for the smite fight, and Vault breaks his way to safety.
I mean, LR basically told Fnatic, we have ults up. How many ults do you have up, Fnatic? And Fnatic said, what, we don't have any. We don't have any. So, and we're going to look back at how they use those ultimates. They turn their attention onto Nemesis, and I think that's smart because Rekkles is right next to Velja. Isolating the Braum away from the mid laner means that, hey, this should be an easy pickup. Good flash from Nemesis, but there's not much he can do against that ultimate coming through from Empyros to secure a kill. And as we mentioned, during that, Baus was securing plates on the top side of the map, so it's not a massive gold advantage for Fnatic just yet. I mean, the gold is practically dead even, and the fact that LR still got that Rift Herald means that they're not in a bad position at all.
Yeah, can use it to crack through one of these towers. You can see that little crystalline overgrowth on the turret in the bottom lane. If the tower is exposed, so if minions can go up to it and it doesn't have another tower in front of it, it will slowly build up these crystalline stacks. Kind of works like Demolish, if you think about it like that. Demolish has changed slightly itself, but old Demolish. So when you hit it, the more crystalline overgrowth on it, the more damage you do to the tower. Gives you this nice little burst, and then you can get through some of those turret plates, which are now on every tower in the game.
Yes.
Apart from Nexus towers, it seems. We're not sure about that one. In the patch notes, it says Nexus towers have plates. But when we look at the games, it doesn't seem to be the case.
Vladi throwing at his ultimate to try and catch Rekkles out, but he's able to sidestep that one. A lot of pings as the dragon spawns in 30 seconds. It's LR that have control initially. Nemesis wants to get a quick base off. I believe he should have... Yeah, he's going to be the Archangel Staff completed. And look at how close he is to getting the upgrade into the Seraphs as well. So in terms of itemization, he's in a very good spot with those 2 completed items and the upgraded boots. I have to imagine that Vladi must be very close to his second item as well.
Yeah, I'd assume Ryze's on this back.
But drop the Rift Herald.
And the blasting, yeah.
Yeah, just great setup from LR overall. Fnatic is too slow on the play. They're not in a position ready to contest this. You've got the Vi on the top side of the Rift, but I guess Fnatic are arguing, well, we don't really care that much. It is only the 3rd dragon of the game. Small advantage gain for LR. And maybe they can trade it for a tower in the top lane, which looks like they're going to secure
Yeah,
right
that
now.
tower's going to die. Watch the crystalline overgrowth. 1 auto on it takes half its remaining health. A couple more autos are enough, but they lose first tower to the Rift Herald charge coming out from Rekkles.
And they should be able to charge this Rift Herald into the tower, tier 2 tower as well, securing a couple more plates. So I do not think LR is unhappy with that at all. Baus doing what he can to clear out those waves on the top side of the map.
Does need to be a little bit cautious in the 1v1. Empyros is at 2 items already. Spear and Eclipse complete for him. 2 items as well on Upset, who has gone for the Fiend Hunter Bolts Vedi.
One of the newest items that we've had introduced to the game. When you ulti, you get those either 3 guaranteed crits or the 3
if you were going to crit,
damage.
you get extra true damage.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to crit, that's the way that it works. I'm hoping we also get to see the Actualizer come through from Nemesis, one of the new AP items. It basically just gives you this massive steroid where you get a lot more cooldown, a lot more damage. We saw Faker playing it earlier in the day.
Ooh, nice collapse here from Nemesis. Looking for that realm warp forward. Empyros going to get charged down. The Rune Prison out with the root. And the rest of Los Ratones are collapsing in. Baus with his first LEC kill gets himself a shutdown.
A nice collapse from Nemesis, and it all comes back to what we were talking about in draft, that use of those ultimates from the mid laners. It's Nemesis that's able to find a collapse this time round, secures a kill for Baus, eradicates that top lane goal difference, and the game remains in a very even state. We're yet to see any really big team fights come through from either side. The Baron is now an objective available on the Rift as these outer towers continue to fall.
Yeah, Baron now coming up at 20 minutes. Artican has been relegated, not even to the bench, off the roster entirely. Contract was not renewed, unfortunately. So we won't see any more Artican throws, but we're in Europe. We'll definitely see some Baron throws.
Absolutely. But credit to LR. I know that I was definitely one of the skeptics of them coming into the LEC around their performance. While Fnatic hasn't been super aggressive in this early game, LR has played it steady, played it controlled. We'll see if Fnatic can find anything as now. Razork
looking for Velja. There's the Weaver's Wall as well to try and separate the team. Rekkles with the Glacial Fisher, but can he get back to his teammate? Flashes in. Velja goes in, and Rekkles flashes out, and Velja will pay the price for it. Baus trying to get onto the backline. Empyros already dives on Crownie, and the concussive blows do not come out in time. Baus now in the middle of 4 members of Fnatic have to flash the wall, but Lospa's there for the chase. The cycling shove does not connect. The knockback over the wall. Baus still dies. Upset takes it, and that's got to be Baron for Fnatic.
And just like that, the game blows wide open. Velja with the re-engage, I think, was a huge mistake from the side of LR. Rekkles was able to flash out to safety. LR needed to disengage from this just because the collapse from Fnatic was so quick. And really the turning point was Empyros finding that target onto Crownie, eliminating him from the fight before he could really have any impact. Nemesis was too far away. Fnatic find 3 kills, they find themselves a Baron, and now they're in firm control of their first game of the split.
It's moments like that that really cost you at the LEC level. We'll see what Fnatic can do with this Baron. Have to remember, 3 new players on this roster. Only Razork and Upset remaining from the roster from last year. And something you often find with new players is you have to rebuild the mid game. You have to rebuild that muscle. We'll have another look at this fight.
So the engage comes down. I think Fnatic mainly just testing, trying to force a flash, find a pick, the flash away, and then the engage. And Velja's going in completely isolated. Baus hasn't TP'd in yet. Nemesis isn't in range. But then the ulti from Empyros onto Crownie just perfectly placed to eliminate the AD carry from the fight. And just a mistake from Velja, going for that re-engage when his team just wasn't in a position to follow up.
Over the Unraveled Earth as well, so he was stunned as soon as he went in with that EQ combo. Now Fnatic playing on 2 waves. Empyros dealing with Baus up towards this top side. Baus is going to struggle in this. Level 16 for Empyros already. 4 levels away from that max cap. The rest of Fnatic in this mid lane, pushing in, trying to get more of those plates. Rekkles with the unbreakable wall will stop them for the moment, but you can just sit by this cannon minion. It's hard for Fnatic to play it away.
Now the good news for LR is normally, because the Baron has moved back from 25 minutes to 20, it's usually not enough to just end the game off the Baron.
True.
So, yes, LR will lose some objectives. The gold gap is going to continue to grow in favor of Fnatic, but there's still a potential win condition if they can look to contest these dragons. There are ways for them to fight back into this game, given that Fnatic can't really do much more off the back of this Baron outside of maybe chipping away at a few more of these tier 2 towers.
There's also the option to say, okay, 10 minutes we scale it. Right, like, or maybe next Baron we try and fight it 4 minutes in, but they've taken 2 dragons. Fnatic only have 1. So you're waiting 15 minutes for a soul for Fnatic if we have to get there. We'll see what Los Ratones decide to do. They have 2 items complete on Crownie and Nemesis.
Yeah, because it's upset, really, that you have to be afraid of. The Infinity Edge already being finished for him is that is one terrifying Yunara. And of all the players, upset still playing incredibly well. His positioning is one of those things that makes it very difficult to lock him down.
He's never died on Yunara in professional play. He has played it 4 times now, yet to die. Baus caught out as Fnatic collapse on the Kled. He tries to escape, but it's upset picks up the kill. And with Nemesis on a side lane, Fnatic should be able to get at least the tier 2 here. Public execution just wide for Empyros as Nemesis does sidestep it well. Fnatic still pushing forward, looking for more. They go towards the inhibitor tower, and Los Ratones not really able to defend.
Yeah, I was saying that I didn't expect Fnatic to get much more off the back of this Baron, but they found a quick pick. They get 2 towers. Now that gold gap has ballooned to 5.2k. The dragon secured as well. Soul not really on the cards in the near future. LR have to do everything they can to try and slow this game down as much as possible, but Fnatic, the game plan is clear. You keep these waves pushed up, you deny vision in the enemy jungle as much as you can, you make it as hard as possible for LR to really leave their base, you secure the Baron, and then you look to end the game.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they'll be trying to do. Los Ratones do have a couple of options defensively. A few Phaelites through their own jungle, one just outside the base will give them some vision, but not enough to get towards the Razorbeaks. Rekkles trying to control some area here, but Fnatic step in.
Yeah, they've got this small pocket of vision that you were talking about, roughly around this area, on the left side of the rift in the river. And they do have some wards to the entrances our observers are highlighting for us. So, as you rightly said, they have some options, but that vision is slowly starting to dissipate. Yeah,
there's a Phaelite over here and a Phaelite just at the top of the screen underneath the scoreboard that do give you a little bit of vision of the entrances to the jungle, but it's only the entrances. They managed to use that to get a ward in the back of the pit, but it's still 2 minutes on the Baron, so that ward will be expiring a minute after it spawns, and I'd be very surprised if Fnatic don't clear it out before they decide to go for another Baron play. A 5,000 gold lead now for Fnatic, and Los Ratones, I mean, they found themselves in this sort of position many times in the ERLs. They were not a good early game team. Now this, they've fallen apart a little bit in the mid game, so they are equally behind. It just came from a different point. The question is now, can they find that way to get back into this game? Maybe it's the actualizer being completed. Maybe it's when Crownie gets his Lord Doms or Executioners if he decides to go that way. We'll have to wait and see.
The challenge is going to be keeping Crownie alive.
Yeah.
We talked about it in draft, but look at this Fnatic composition. It's Vi, it's Ambessa. This combo is ruthless at locking down a target and removing them from the rift.
Yeah.
Whether that be Nemesis or Crownie, those are going to be the 2 key targets for Razork and Empyros. And credit to Empyros, because his impact really has been felt in this game.
It really has.
A solo kill onto Baus on the top side of the map. He had a nice TP onto the bot river where he was able to pick off Nemesis. And in the team fight, his target selection was great. Locking down Crownie, removing him from the fight. So every single one of the picks he's found has converted something into a favorable situation for Fnatic. And here's that jungle control we were talking about earlier. Fnatic just denying as much vision, denying what camps they can. Smite comes through for Razork. Oh, actually, the red buff went over to Lospa. Not Upset's favorite thing to happen.
I mean, he'll be fine with the extra health he gets from it. Empyros chasing Baus down here, who's trying to smack his way back onto Skull and manages to do it. Gets that health bar back, but you can see just how negatively those trades are going. He's basically a whole item behind Empyros now.
Yeah, I mean, the goal difference is no joke. Pretty much all the Fnatic members have at the very least half an item advantage. There is that actualizer completed onto Nemesis. Keep your eyes on that, because when he procs that active, he's going to be doing well, a decent amount of damage, one could say.
Increased by the amount of, it scales with the amount of mana you have. So right now it's 34.2% increased damage from his spells, which for the 8 seconds the actualizer is activated do cost 100% more mana.
Yeah, which is why having that mana is really important, especially on a champion like Ryze. But Nemesis has the potential to do a lot of damage. The question is, in these front-to-back team fights, I do give Fnatic's comp that bit of an edge, largely thanks to this Taliyah and Yunara. Like, their ability to just melt whoever is hitting them is so effective, along with their self-peel tools. Whereas for LR, I think, again, ideally they want to be looking for picks, playing through side lanes, looking for collapses, which haven't really been able to do this game. Lospa a little caught out.
That he is. He should just be able to walk his way away. But Los Ratones using that pressure to get a little bit of vision around the Baron themselves. They've been able to extricate themselves from their own jungle and walk a little bit further up on the Rift. It seems like Fnatic are willing just to keep the game slow. It's like Drake is up in 10 seconds. We can play around that. We can look for collapses in mid as well as Upset. Stepping forward here, the Weaver's Wall from Vladi. They'll go for Crownie, who flashes away, but you can't dodge that. Vladi and Razork team up perfectly. Velja now on the wrong side of the Rift, needs to get himself out of here, but where's he gonna go? Everywhere here is behind enemy lines. Vladi on the chase will get the slow with the Ryze, a seismic shove, and a very dead Jarvan.
It was a really nice sequence from Fnatic because they pushed both side lanes while LR grouped up to contest vision in the river. And then once LR had moved back to answer these sideway pushes, Crownie was a target in the mid lane, and Fnatic collapsed swiftly and effectively to get the flash out from Crownie, to get the pick onto Crownie, and then convert that into a kill as well. So again, you kind of look at the minimap. Ryze is going top, the Kled is going back to bot. Rekkles is already reset on the Rift, and Crownie's like, okay, I'll catch this wave if I can. Doesn't respect the possibility of the buy coming through. Vladi's ultimate as well. And it's just a really nice collapse from Fnatic.
Really solid. You can see Los Ratones like, okay, we've set forward, now we need to retreat. Didn't realize just how quickly Fnatic could pull the trigger on the plate. Vladi gets the slow with the threaded volley, and that's enough. And it's Baron for Fnatic. GA for Razork is his third item. 4 completed for Vladi, 4.5 for Upset. Fnatic are in such a strong position. Almost 2k leads on their mid jungle and AD carry right now.
I mean, a very clean performance overall from Fnatic. Question marks were surrounding these roster changes and what this team was going to look like. The draft looked very similar to the Fnatic that we're used to, but the execution, very controlled, very clean, very well executed so far in this game.
John Constantine coming in the YouTube chat saying it's Fnatic's year. Let's not be hasty, okay? We've seen this before. We've seen them top the regular season and then struggle to make an impact in playoffs. But here in this game, it is definitely theirs to lose, as Empyros is jumped on by Velja, but isn't taking any damage. Razork on the Baus as Lospa dives onto the backline. Glacial Fisher coming out as well. Baus has to flash away. Lospa able to survive the cease and desist coming out as they dive onto Nemesis. He's caught up, forced away by Upset, and forced back to the fountain by Fnatic. A 10k lead almost now for Fnatic as Upset. He just doesn't need to stop. There's the 10. And with an inhibitor down in the bot lane, Fnatic are looking to dot the I's and cross the T's and close this one out.
A one-sided affair as Fnatic open the LEC with a strong performance. Baus is quick to follow. Upset remains deathless on his Yunara as they look to close this one out in 32 minutes.
Yeah, not really much Velja and Rekkles can do, but watch as Fnatic take the Nexus. Almost, they do take their lives on the fountain. 1-0 Fnatic as they close out the first game of LEC Versus.